Imagine being thrown into the fire with only 10 hours to cook for a global superstar. That's exactly what happened to our guest, a former engineer turned personal chef.
Organizer calls me and she's like, I know, I'm giving you only 10 hours notice. And I'm already, come on, come on. But this is for Harry Styles. Oh, okay. So no pressure there.
Hear the gripping tale of how raw talent, quick thinking, and a dash of audacity fed the famed Harry Styles and his crew, against all odds.
And the actual reason is, yes, we eat meat, yes, we drink, yes, it's fun, but it was to bring people together.
This chef's story isn't just about cooking, it's about finding joy, connection, and the authentic self. On this episode of our podcast, where we learn that the ultimate ingredient for success, in the kitchen and in life, is staying true to oneself.
Today we're talking with Ilya Donati, a personal chef with a zest for bringing people together through the art of cooking. Ilya isn't just a chef, he's a storyteller, an entrepreneur, and a leader in his own right. Born in Italy and making his mark in Australia, Ilya has mastered the art of using food to create connections, evoke memories, and build communities. From intimate dinner parties to grand culinary events, he's cooked for celebrities, including Harry Styles, and turned every meal into an unforgettable experience. Get ready to be inspired, to feel the warmth of the kitchen, and to discover how every dish can tell a story. Grab a seat at our table as we sit down with Ilya Donati. So how have your sort of Italian heritage has shaped your understanding around leadership and particularly how food plays a role in
Yeah,
that?
so I possibly because I'm the eldest of three siblings, I found myself, in a position where I was sort of leading that part of life as well with my little brothers as well. I sort of always had it and felt it in me a little bit. But in cooking, well, this is a whole different topic because I realized for the personal chef side of things that I was worrying too much what people were thinking or where the industry was moving towards or so many things while I actually realized that what people want is me and my take on things, my take on cooking, and the same with other people. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm just saying if they get me, it's because they want me. So that's the concept is to just be you and lead by being you. That's what I'm trying to say. Just not being afraid of being you.
Was there some moment or an event that gave you that realization that just the authentic you is good enough?
In general, having a business does that to you because when you start, you like many people, you feel a little bit like an imposter, and you suffer definitely of imposter syndrome, and you ask yourself so many questions. But then you realize that what you do, um, requires a lot of attention to details, a lot of passion, a lot of elements that if you don't put in, you don't get the result that you're looking for sure. And as a as an event in particular, I was cooking for I am cooking for a jet company, private jet company, and I've I had done only a couple of caterings for them, so I cook for them, give them the food, and they fly and they serve my food, which is pretty cool. But this day, flight attendant and organizer calls me, and she's like, I know, I'm giving you only 10 hours notice, and I'm already, come on, come on. But this is for Harry Styles. Oh, okay. So no pressure there. He had a concert here in Melbourne. It was recently, actually. And so I thought, wow. And first of all, you think, what am I cooking for someone like that? But actually, there's not really much you can do to impress someone like that because they've seen it and done it all pretty much. So I just did the best that I could, and of the menu that they asked, gave them the best quality ingredients, the best quality service, the best quality presentation, the best of everything I could think of. Um, Took it there, gave it to them, and asked for a feedback. And they said, we absolutely loved the food, and him and his crew was raving about it, was really happy about catering. There was absolutely no bad feedback. And so every time we depart from, okay, so that was definitely something that got rid of some imposter syndrome, and some of the feeling, maybe I'm not good enough, that sort of thing that always somewhere in your brain.
Great story, mate. What did you cook for Harry?
So it was mainly, which it was part of the fact that it was a bit challenging, mainly raw and Japanese sort of food. So nigiri, sashimi, this kind of thing, sushi, caviar. So basically seafood. And when she called me, the local market was an hour from closing. So I literally put something on and went to the market straight away. And that's how I got it done.
They must have been really challenging. You think, we'll get an Italian to cook us some Japanese food, hey?
Yeah, well, this is actually part of why my story is interesting and brought me to what I do, is because in these 10 years I've spent in Australia, I've changed quite a few places where I work. And I worked in a Spanish restaurant, in a French restaurant. I worked with Asian people. I've seen a bit of Thai, a little bit of Japanese, and people know when they call me. I tell them, "Look, I'm not a Japanese chef. I've never been to Japan even, but I've got a basic knowledge on those things, and I'm confident I can cook or make those things. If we go out of those things, to be um, not as strong for me, my knowledge, while Italian or meat, we can go crazy, go do whatever you want, pretty much. I've been a butcher as well because I wanted to learn how to cut the meats, where they come from, where are the muscles, learn all of that. I was supposed to be an engineer, so I studied math, I studied this kind of thing. I went to uni, did not work at all. So that doesn't mean, though, that my brain isn't thinking that way. Yeah, for example, I was at Fine Food Festival, um, and I was looking at machinery for cooking, but then I caught myself looking at the actual machinery, not so much the cooking side. I was like, that work sort of thing. So yeah, that could probably make some difference in the way I think and do
Yeah, well, I guess we can call you the the engineer of
things.
food, the engineer of culinary delights, mate. So, not only Harry Styles and his crew, but you've hosted somewhere in the region of close to 1,000 people,
Yeah.
from what I understand. So, what's been the most challenging sort of situations you may have had around bringing people together for this breaking of bread, eating food, so to speak?
Ooh, there have been many. From early days, I understood that this was more about making it work, and obviously really good food, but making it work and entertaining people. As a matter of fact, I'm in the entertaining business more than the hospitality. But to get back on track, if I have to choose something that um, just comes up to my head is this person that was renovating a beautiful property on a little hill here near Melbourne, Warrandyte. Uh, he was fantastic, all green. So I would absolutely steal that house if I could. I would love it. Um, and But yeah, the house doesn't have any windows yet, doesn't have any heating, of course, and doesn't have any. Uh, yeah, it has running water, but there's no sink. So there was a barbecue and there was no electricity. So that day we had to run the fryer with a generator, but then it was noisy because they were having a party. We had to line up a few uh, leads and get the generator up the bush, far away from us, um, and then fry with that, cook with the barbecue, use trestle tables, uh, just literally making it work. That was very challenging, but the feedback was amazing. And the good thing is, people understand the situation. People came, saw how we were working, and they were like, "You, you are doing really well because look at the conditions, and thank you so much. Food was amazing. We still be very professional with everyone, and you know what? I loved it because it was challenging, because it was a little bit different, because I had to make it work."
Yeah, sort of the pressure of the moment, not only sort of creating this entertainment scenario in the around food, but even before you could start to create those things that you're building, designing, creating through your food side of things, you had to sort stuff out to even make that happen. What is it that's rewarding? What do you find most rewarding about the experience of bringing people together around
Yeah,
food?
really good question. And so at first, I didn't know that. So I had to have a bit of a chat with my mom when I was digging into this sort of stuff. And I said, "Why do I do what I do? What do you think? Help me find out, because I need that to get clear on my message and on everything I do." And she said, "Well, because you've always loved putting people together, and the way you do it is you use food. You used to throw barbecues out of nowhere so many times a week in summer, and the actual reason is, yes, we eat meat, yes, we drink, yes, it's fun, but it was to bring people together." And I thought, that's actually true. And so I try to apply that to what I do and make sure I always deliver really good food. But the actual focal point is, the way I do it has to make the person and everyone feel like they're actually having an amazing time, a really good, memorable time, a moment, because that's what makes um, the service unique.
And how do you in your business create that environment? What do you guys do that's special?
Yeah, so it's also about how you structure and organize the event. So, for example, if it's a family, from the get go, I would suggest, let's go. sharing plates, not go fancy individual plate and things like. Let's share, because share. Share, it means that the food is in the middle. You're gonna have to ask somebody, can you pass me that? Oh, how was that? Oh, should I have a little bit of that? Oh, can I try from you? Oh, can I do this? Can I do that? It's already making the environment more about sharing. That's for sure. We want to make sure the environment is proper, so the nice settings, the temperature is good. We want to make sure also that I pick up the vibe. It's something that it's a bit invisible, um, but I feel it a lot when I walk in. There are a lot of elements that tell me how to behave, and 9 times out of 10, maybe more, I get it right in terms of um, I know how much I need to talk, if I have to be more funny, less funny, um, more showy, less showy, and try to give people what they actually looking for, which is another important thing. Sometimes they call you and they don't exactly know what they're looking for or what they actually need to get. The, my job is to give them what they actually need. Yeah, so it's a lot of elements all together. And as you can notice, I don't talk about food in this instance very much because, again, you have to deliver really good food and all of that, but that's not what makes it.
Tell us a bit more about the dynamics of that, because that's what is ringing out to me, that food is just a tool in this case, hopefully a really nice and tasty tool that creates that environment of sharing and conversation and just connecting with each other. What sort of dynamic changes do you see when people are doing that,
Oh,
sharing
oh,
food?
easy. Especially when there's some nonna involved. Um, At first, they feel a bit strange having a stranger open their drawers and looking for pots and pans, and they just constantly behind you. Oh, what do you need? Oh, what do you need? Can I do this? Can I do that? And then, in a nice way, you sort of get them to understand that today you can actually take time to go and talk to that person. Have a glass of wine and go and do that. And once they realize that, it just changes. It's magical because they let go of the responsibility of cooking for the family. They can trust someone that can do it properly, and they go and they actually socialize. They actually spend time with the loved ones, which is the whole point. And you can see it. And at the end, they come to me and they say, "Oh my God, I never had something like that. And I don't need to clean now. My back hurts, even just loading the dishwasher." This kind of very real, raw things. So I'm like, I know, I know, and that's why I do it. Not to show you I cook better than you. Not to um, I don't know, other reasons. It's just so you can sit and actually enjoy this, and you see the change, especially for people that have never done like that, something like that. You can definitely see how they relax, sit back, have a wine, and
Let's just stick with family for a second. Has there been a special moment that sits in your mind that you can tell us about, that it's just been a really special connection moment between people around the environment you've created?
yeah. Also, a really good question. This one was more of a family that is, I would say, well off. The house was absolute. beautiful, incredible. Everything you can name that it had it, and around the corner it had more. It was insane, absolutely beautiful. So you expect some sort of stereotype around this kind of person, and I could see, as a matter of fact, there was not much deep connection with these people, and I couldn't understand why at first, and then through the questions and through the night, I realized that one of the parents um, felt not good enough at cooking for their own family. Like, if you would feel not confident to to do something, it will be with anybody, but should never be with your family. That should be, at least you should be feeling confident with your family. That's when I switched and I thought, wow, that should never be the case. Like, you should be confident, even if your cooking is not great, at least to feel good about it. And the fact that this person was learning throughout the night and gaining a little bit of confidence, and I don't know, maybe through having me, allowing him to step out of the step into the uncomfortable zone and step out of the comfort zone, allowing him, probably, that I could see that he was already chatting to the girls. He was already saying, well, why don't we try to cook this next week? Why don't we go to the market together? Like, this is a person that obviously has businesses, a lot to do, and all on a sudden thinks about, okay, maybe I should go to the market and get some great seafood and great vegetables with my kids and take it home, give it a crack. And that was some transformation for sure. That was huge.
Given that experience, and I'm going to get onto organizations and teams very soon, but what advice would you give to families out there based on that experience and related to food?
Yes, so I like I say all the time, I want to stay true and genuine to who I am. I don't have kids, so I'm not gonna get into how to deal with kids, but I can help you gain the confidence and allow yourself to cook better for your family. So the advice, as a general, is to just allow yourself do this. Just stick your hand up and say, you know what? I don't know if it's gonna go well, if it's gonna do nice, if I'm gonna waste money, but I'm gonna go to the market, pick up some fresh produce, whatever I think is good. I'm gonna cook it, and I'm gonna involve the family in this process, because sometimes we think that being with the family is just by the pool or by the barbecue or on holiday, but being with the family was also when I was with my mom shopping and choosing the ingredients. That's being with your family. You're just doing another activity, and by involving them, and in the process, you the result is what's in the plate magically has a whole different and higher value, because it's been made and created by a, a person within the family. So you involve the kids. And again, this is from my mom. When I asked her all these questions, she said, well, when you're busy, you've got a business, a busy schedule, a lot of washing to do, a lot of cleaning to do, and you can't go on holiday and do these things or even to the beach. well, that's the time you've got together, you know, in the kitchen, with your kids, asking them questions, getting them to try and whip something up and make mistakes together. It's funny, you bake a cake, it doesn't turn out like a cake, it turns out like a warm pudding. Have a laugh about it, you know? That's it. Nothing happened. If I do that for a customer that has paid me as an expert, then that's a different pressure. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I see the connection and the process. Getting to something you said earlier around structure, but you can bring the whole family into the process of that creation of a meal and being involved in that. There's all elements people can have input into it and contribute to what the output's going to look like, and it creates
Oh,
conversation and connection, which
absolutely.
is super important around leadership. There's what we're really talking about, what you're talking about is that there's sort of feelings, memories, emotions that are linked to food that strongly. Is there anything in your background, like is there a signature dish that you may have that it's your signature dish because there's fond memories around it? Tell us a bit
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
absolutely. So I love cooking a lot of things, but this one has so many connections and it's very simple. It's tagliatelle ragu. That's how my nonna calls it, but um, it's basically bolognese. Um, Obviously, it has its roots because I'm from that area. But the thing is, every time I cook it, I just takes my brain back to when I was stepping into my nonna's house, mainly on a Sunday night lunch, and getting that feed. You're gonna get a huge feed, and then you're gonna almost pass out on that much food you ate, and all those feelings that come with it, being with the family. Smell of the food, the smell of that, because that was always on the menu. Doesn't matter what else was on the menu. There was some vegetables that were not in season, so we wouldn't eat them for a while. But that was always on the menu, always, always, always. And she will make the tagliatelle from scratch. She will make obviously the sauce from scratch, and that smell is just what takes me back. As soon as I go to Italy and I go to my nonna's and I walk in and I smell that, the connection is so, it's not 5G, it's 1,000 Gs. Like seriously, your brain instantly gives you a whole thing of emotions. So for me, smell, obviously taste, but smell is very, very important. And that's what I try to explain as well when I cook that for people. Sometimes they tell me even, oh, I think the menu is a little bit basic. Well, then is when I try to educate them and tell them again, it's about the food, but it's not. The food is gonna be amazing. But what's gonna be amazing is that you are here in Melbourne and magically I take you to my nonna's table because that's the recipe, that's what it smells like, that's and I and I let you in also into my stories, close to my heart and close to how I grew up. Yeah, so if I have to choose the one, it would definitely be that one.
Well, I have to say, myself and my wife plan to be in Italy in a couple of years, and I'm really looking forward to going to your nonna's place
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, that'll be great. A lot of people have tried to do that, but it's a bit hard with traveling and finding yourselves together over there. And luckily, they're all still alive. On my mom's side, they cook a little bit less. On my dad's side, is those ones that grew up more in a farm environment with egg story in, so they still cooking and still making the sauce. And they complain their hands hurt. Sauce doesn't cost anything; just buy it. You've made enough sauce just buy it now, the tomato sauce, and put basil in it if you want. No, they have to. So that's how it.
What's the secret to a great bolognese?
Well, there are a few. One is nonnas don't don't get stuffed around, but by butchers. They used to at least buy the cuts of meats that they wanted, then go home and mince them, because that way they know what's in it, what's gonna be in that sauce. So that's one of the things. And obviously, a really good, if can, organic tomato, and just following the process. Don't take shortcuts. If you have to fry the onion, carrots, and celery, fry it. You have to cook the meat first until the juices come out, and then put wine, and then wait a little bit longer, and then put this, and then put that. Wait and do it properly, because that's what is gonna bring. I myself have tried to take shortcuts on that recipe, and it doesn't smell the same. It doesn't taste the same as well. And this is gonna probably cost you a lot of millions, but the super secret is a tiny bit of nut, a tiny little.
Tiny little bit of
Yeah, just
nutmeg?
a little bit of nutmeg. I don't know, it just opens up that flavor a lot. No cinnamon, no all of that stuff. Not a whole spoon of nutmeg, just a tiny bit, just to balance the flavor. If you can buy the actual nutmegs and grate them on top of the sauce, that'll be so much better.
I love a good spag, mate, and I think I might make some tonight, and I'll try that, and I'll report back. I'll let you know.
Please do.
It I've been having spag for all these years, and I've never put nutmeg in it, so this is going to be the game
Yeah,
changer.
hopefully.
Can't
Hopefully,
wait.
yeah. Hopefully you like it.
You're Italian heritage. You're Australian
Yeah.
citizen. You spent almost now 10 years in Australia, as you mentioned earlier. What around this food topic and the connection, the people connection, what's different around Italian culture and Australian culture?
So the difference that I see most times, not every time, is that there's not as much connection in terms of eating does not is not a part of your life as much. Eating together at least one meal. You don't have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. At least for us, it was, even we were playing sports, working different places, different hours, but pretty much all the times we would have at least dinner together. And even the fact that you sit down, for some people, they don't sit down, or they don't eat together, or they eat at different times, or the kids don't take part of the cooking or the making process. Some people I see, they they have the kids trained to help them clean up, which is really good, and all of that. Um, Maybe um, get them involved into the cooking as well, and the planning, because one of the conversation we had at the table was, for sure, what are we gonna eat next? What are we gonna eat next week? My mom would cook something awesome, and we go like, "Oh, can we have that again?" Ideally, I would have that every day, but then she'll go like, "No," and okay, then let's have it again next week. But should we try this? Should we try that? And that was definitely conversation for sure. So there's a lot of clash that I felt, that sort of is part of what shaped me into me and what I do, and what I try to achieve as well with the cooking bond. That is the way we as Italians approach the mealtime, and the way Australians sometimes approach the mealtime, the food, the process of getting food cooked on the plate.
Let's take this topic into the team, organizations, business team environment now. What creates, or how would you set up an environment to create those connections, that sort of moment, that sort of process for teams to become stronger?
So for teams to become stronger, we're talking not about family. Obviously, we're talking about the business at the moment. Yes.
Business teams, could be sporting teams as well, but yeah, the organizational aspect of teams, building teams, creating connection in teams. How does what you do support that? How can you support that?
So, if we talk about me, in my case, I obviously need help from other people, but I also like to support other people. For example, entertainers, guitarists, local artists, and things like that. And that's the way I involve other people. If we're talking about how to build a team, um, it doesn't obviously work as well with everyone, and you gotta have a different approach to everyone. But the point is to make sure that they are there to give a really good experience. And so we need to work towards that by um, taking advantage of each other's skills. So I'm good at cooking, I cook. You are good at serving and dealing with the people at the table. Do that. Are good at selecting, pouring wines, and serving people, or you're good at cleaning up, or you're good at organizing the event. You know, everyone has a strength, so we need to try to put them all together, basically, and create a team that makes sense for that event, for how that event is structured.
Yeah, and whether it's a sort of food team or again the team you have growing your business, there's always pressures attached to those. Have you got one of those gory stories where as a team it probably didn't work so well, so therefore the dish was nowhere near, or can I say you produced a disastrous dish for whatever reason because the team just wasn't gelling?
Um, yeah, yeah. I've had one where the dish was a disaster, and I cheated a little bit. I had to say to the customer that on the way there, when we were loading the van, we dropped the cake, but the cake was a disaster from hours before that. uh, but you know, the point was to come across with the point in the best way possible. Also, because sometimes people stress on the day, so I'm like, don't worry, we got another solution. We fixed it. We just can't do that cake exactly. And yeah, the problem was the staff member that was helping me didn't really do a good job in making the cake, and it can happen. It happens to me. It happens to everyone. Um, but like I said at the beginning, make it work. What are you gonna do about it? I've been in some situation where the oven doesn't work, the stove doesn't work, and what are you gonna do? You gonna cry or call Uber Eats? You're just gonna have to make it work. And not sure if there was another part of the question.
Well, let me set some context as well around one of the best experiences I remember in, and it only came back to me preparing for our conversation, is many years ago. I spent some time in this scenario, I was in Singapore, and we'd arranged a night out with the team, and it was at a place called Clarke Quay in Singapore, and the opportunity was that we we split the larger group. We had the larger team into teams, smaller teams, and each team was responsible for cooking a dish from scratch. All the ingredients and things were already there. We didn't have to go shopping or anything, but it was there. So there was a bit of a competitive nature around
Yeah.
it. Like you wanted to get the good, you know, produce the best dish. But again, it wasn't about that. That added a nice flavor to it, excuse the pun, but it was more the process of working together as a team, connecting as a team, using each other's strengths, having some challenges because some of us might have been okay cooks, some of us hadn't really cooked too much. Just the experience and the emotion and the memories wrapped up in that was absolutely fantastic. What how do you create that environment? Or how do you see leaders potentially being able to create that environment for their business, for their teams in their business, based on your own experiences? Like you shared a fantastic story about your nonna and the smells, and it's probably in that case it's less about the actual food, it's more about that connection and the memories that come back based on that smell, that connection. The food's like a fantastic bonus.
Yeah, so I think that it's I stand by what I said earlier, as in using each other's strength. So by having a team that works in so many different occasions, environments, and sometimes there are a lot of challenging challenges. That's where you look within and you see, okay, well, that person can be a leader, that person can do that thing, and that person has proved that was able and capable of sustaining the pressure of the moment and finding a solution. For example, for me, it would be, for example, I would be on one side of the house cooking something, no problem, and on the other side the power trips all the time and the fryer stops all the times and the chips never cook or they come out soggy, and that person found a solution without even involving me, and without disrupting very much the situation. So sometimes if you're lucky enough, just the experience of being in the moment, like you said, being challenged by the experience itself builds up some leaders. You just have to be in the headspace in the moment of, and I mean, being able to and capable of capturing it. Um, oh, that element of that person definitely be used that way. That was handled very well. And you have to make sure you do that with yourself as well.
What advice would you give to leaders to really embrace that world of food as a means of connecting with others?
Um, so there's definitely a lot, and I've given some general advice in general, but just try and do things differently, because if you've done something one way and it doesn't create that connection, then maybe it's your approach or maybe the way you are doing it that needs a change or needs a spin, needs to be done a little bit different. And that's when meditation ties into everything, and in this case into cooking. Like I my breakthrough was through COVID. I did a 25-second meditation on washing my hands, and I was thinking, "Oh, I'm just curious about this. What is this gonna even do?" And the person was saying, well, you're lucky you can touch your hands one with another. You're lucky you can look at them. You can feel the water. You you're lucky you got 10 fingers. So to go back to what I was saying is meditation doesn't have to be with your eyes closed, and breathing can also be, you know what? Remove the distraction, put some nice music on, don't have Netflix while you cook going on, or something with a conversation that captures your attention, or news, even worse. And celebrate being alive and having a partner or a person next to you in your house that night, because because you have a house, because your house is warm, because you have food in your house, because you have things to cook food in you, because you are capable to stand up and being there. But sometimes you just forget to enjoy that we can actually do that. And if you are able to crack that and get that satisfaction from those little things, cut an orange and go like, oh my god, these things smell so good. You know what I mean? Like, how many times do you do or think that? The only time is when you peel an onion and you complain you're gonna cry for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Again, there's so much opportunity for it. It almost feels like that what you're saying is sort of cooking can be cathartic if you're really present in the moment. And I don't know, as a personal chef and an entertainer, the way that you are and create these environments, how many times you would wash your hands, but I imagine quite a lot. So there's that sort of break in the process, and you're linking the hand washing to calming the mind, and it's almost like a recharge and then go forward again. And if we all take moments to appreciate these little things, then our worlds aren't as bad a place as what some people think their world is like, I suppose. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying?
exactly. And tying this to what I was saying earlier, if you think um, you have time with your family only when you're in Nusa or Maldives, then step back and go like, you know what? I'll enjoy a more simpler feeling, having my family in the kitchen. Like, the hand washing is a parallel. So if I can manage to have enjoyment out of washing my hands, I can definitely manage to get enjoyment out of um, cooking and being around my family. And so, if you've got that hour a day for cooking, and your kid or kids or partner are there in the kitchen, think of it less less than a task. Just sort of step out of the situation and watch it happen, and go like, you know what, this is awesome. I get to do this. That whole hour will feel like a week, will feel a lot longer, because you instantly gave it a lot more meaning. It's a lot more meaningful to you all on a sudden. Make sure this thought is shared with that person as well, and they understand that you are making so much out of that. Sometimes, and this happened for me with wine as well. I love wine a lot, and I was finding cutting myself drinking wine just because, of alcohol side of it, or the I don't know, taste side of it. When I did a wine appreciation course, then I thought, oh, hang on a sec, every single sip should be um, thought of. Like, if I can think of the taste notes, and I can enjoy that flavor every time I sip the wine, how much more meaningful is a bottle of wine? How much more? And so are the moments. So that's hopefully, that's the message. That's what I'm trying to say. Hopefully, it's a lot clearer. And it's good that we spun it around in a few different ways, because the same for me when I listen to content, I want to get across to myself. One thing that I find is sometimes it's just the way the person speaks and the angle the 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 thing comes from. Sometimes, even though it's in English, I don't get it. I don't fully get it. So hopefully, I express the message. Just enjoy the moment. Cut an orange, smell it, and go like, "Wow, oranges smell so good."
What I'm really taking is that food is, and we know it is, it's just not utilized enough in the business and leadership circles as a tool to
Yeah.
connect people. Families don't even use it enough, is what you're saying, particularly the difference between Italian culture and Australian culture. But it is just such a powerful
Yeah.
thing, isn't it? You mentioned about not always understanding sort of phrases or words. So what about that phrase, too many chefs spoil the broth? You understand
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah. 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 I know. And it's always like that.
When
And
when have you done that? When have you spoiled the
yeah.
broth?
It actually has a good parallel to what you are about with this podcast. Like a chef is a leader, and if I'm in charge of cooking, let me be in charge. And it is a little bit like that. It's good to help each other, but if you're cooking one thing, cook cook that thing. But you could make the other person feel like that. For example, you're there cooking, but make your partner feel, for example, I make my partner feel like she's the chef. And sometimes I'm sneaky that way as well. I'm like, oh, I've got to do something. Can you just chop the onion and put them in? Okay. Okay. I'll just go and pick up the washing. Oh, what do I have to do? Put in that, put in the other thing, and then stir. And then you go and you do this and you do that. And magically, she has made the meal up, and she has made it. She has cooking. Because if I'm around, then she makes me do it. um, but yeah.
Well, you've just blown your technique. If she listens to this podcast or watches it on YouTube, you've just blown your secret. You're gonna be doing all the cooking again,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah, yeah. I know, but
Uh, you've got this shirt on, Cooking Bond, and I know that's there's something specific around that. Tell us a bit about Cooking Bond. What's this about?
it's my project, my way to um, give give back to people what I think um, is the most important message that I definitely shared throughout this interview, which is um, putting together bonding and connection with family through food. That's the most and simplest way uh, put it. And Cooking Bond is just a name, but it represents me thinking, what can I do? Because you hear a doctor that went to a poor country and did that for the kids and did that for the other thing and did that, and you're like, well, I'm a chef, well off people as well sometimes. So I don't really have this kind of hero story. And like, how can I be so a lot more helpful to people since I'm not a doctor, I'm a chef? And I thought, well, I can help them get a lot closer. And this ties everything up of what we said. I've noticed by living here and being here that some of the people and families are not connected enough in the family. And I can't help you connect in other ways. I know cooking, so, and I'm not a psychologist either. So, like I said, I need to stay in my lane. My lane is, I realize that some people could have a better connection if only were better at cooking, and if only would allow themselves to make a mistake and cook for their family or partner or loved ones. I've seen that transformation happen. Was a eye opener for me when I was thinking of it in with a family, and I realized that the dad, this is another family again, the dad wouldn't cook for the family when the mom was recovering from an accident, um, just because he wasn't feeling confident. And by just spending time with me in the kitchen and at the market, and understanding and wrapping his head around how to use the equipment in also a more organized way. So in 4 hours, we cooked so much food basically for the whole week. He couldn't believe he could do that. Obviously, he was slow at cutting. Obviously, he didn't have as many ideas as I did, but you get there. But what I saw at the end of the day was that he allowed himself to cook for his family after I left. After I left, he was cooking steaks. After I left, he was buying ingredients, making the food. They love hummus. Instead of buying the bucket, he would make hummus. It's a simple thing, but for me, it was like, see, that's working. Like I helped him allow to cook for his family. I hope that makes sense.
It does make perfect sense. And what was the impact that you saw or were hoping to have through that
Ha!
process?
Well, a big impact actually. They could not believe that night the whole family was sitting at the table the same time. First of all, second of all, um, the kids were looking at what was going on. They were not at the TV. They were like, "Oh, what are you doing? Oh, why are you doing this? Oh, why are you doing that? Well, why?" They were entertained by us being in the kitchen. Of course, there's an element of a stranger being me in the house. You know, it's different. It breaks the routine for them, of course. But the biggest was when we sat down and the parents were looking like this, and I was, "What's going on? Can you see? What? What's happening?" She eating Brussels sprouts. Are you serious? Is she actually eating Brussels sprouts? I'm like, is that so strange? Oh, you have no idea. They told me you have no idea. So that was definitely huge for them. Apart from the Brussels sprouts, I guess the most important thing was to have the kids be more part of it, of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brussels sprouts in itself is a fantastic impact, mate, because I think there's a hell of a lot of parents out there, us included, that don't like Brussels sprouts, but for some reason we still try and get our kids to eat Brussels sprouts. Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. Sometimes uh, you I guess you might try to do that. You might try to say your kids eat broccoli, but then you don't. I don't know. Again, I don't have kids, but I can teach you how to cook.
Broccoli's okay. I'm good with broccoli, mate.
That's it.
Ilya, let's move on to our last question, mate. What's one thing that's helped you become a more confident leader?
Just the process. The process of, somebody told me the other day, you've got a lot of things um, right. Like you have been working on yourself a lot. You have been doing the right moves with your business. You have been learning a lot. You have been, it was very encouraging in that sense. Um, but I feel like you want to go too fast. So, um, slow down, enjoy the process. But what actually switched, like I said earlier, it's English, but sometimes you don't get it. What made my brain switch was when he said, "You just gotta leave it." And I'm like, okay, that's what you mean. You have to leave the process, the ups and downs, the changing, the this and that. And that is what shapes you.
I love it, mate. Trust the process. The reason why I was keen to have yourself on the podcast is, first of all, Italy holds a special place in my heart, and you happen to come across our desk, and an Italian chef sounded fantastic. You're an up-and-coming entrepreneur. I had no idea that you'd cooked for Harry Styles, but
Thank
well done. Fantastic. And he loved it, which is even more important, and his team loved it, so well done. I hope you did grab a testimonial there that you can utilise. But the other thing, which to me is even more important, and what's come through the interview, is that I know the power of food in connecting people. Not because I'm a chef, because I've had very similar experiences to some of what you shared with my own grandparents in Australia and my family, my dad particularly, who was, he's still alive, thankfully. He loves cooking, and he loved bringing the family together around those sort of things. So, and my experiences in a corporate space is when we've had some challenge in teams or whatever, food and sitting down over lunch or those sorts of things, it just drops some barriers and brings people together. So I'm so glad that came through in the conversation we had. I really appreciate your effort and time coming on our podcast, mate. Thanks for being a fantastic guest on the Cultural Leadership.
Oh, thank you very much. Look, I have to be honest, and I thought I was going to open with this also because I listened to, sorry, I can't remember his name. There's a beautiful podcast of yours, and this guy was saying he's a tough conversation guy. And he was saying lead with that. I was a bit feeling the pressure because I listened to a few episodes while I was driving these past few weeks, and I realized there's awesome, amazing human beings in it, and I'm like, wow, am I gonna be up to the challenge? And then I went back to what we said earlier. I'm just gonna be myself.
You've done a great job with that, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm very grateful for that.
This episode made me reflect on so many happy memories of family lunches and dinners, where we all came together to eat, have fun, and ultimately strengthen our family ties. These were my 3 key takeaways from my conversation with Ilya. My first key takeaway: confident leaders create opportunities to connect. They know how to bring people together and use simple things like sharing a meal to make people feel closer. By serving food, they turn everyday moments into special times, creating bonds and memorable experiences. My second key takeaway: confident leaders involve people in the process. They make sure everyone is part of the journey. They invite people to join in, whether it's picking out ingredients for a meal or talking about ways to make things better at work. This approach makes people feel valued and part of something bigger. My third key takeaway: confident leaders are present in the moment. They focus on the here and now and remind us to be thankful for what we have and to enjoy our time together. For them, food is more than just eating. It's a way to connect, to be entertained, and to be actively involved in the joy of the moment. So in summary, my 3 key takeaways were: confident leaders create opportunities to connect. Confident leaders involve people in the process. And confident leaders are present in the moment. Let me know your key takeaway on YouTube or at thecultureofleadership.com. Thanks for joining me, and remember, the best outcome is on the other side of a genuine conversation.